There are three things that every man must do if he is to really consider himself an alpha male. I'm Paul, Apex Mindset. Hit the subscribe button, like the video, share it, notification bell. This is Red Minute, and we're going to talk about being alpha and the three things a man must do if he is going to really be able to embody that alpha self, that alpha version of himself, which every man is capable of. Okay, we are a product of only the most genetically fit 40% of males in our history. So 60% of men didn't mate. They were pushed out of the gene pool, and only 40% did. We're a product of that. So every man out there has capabilities of being his alpha version of himself. Okay. And there are three things that he must do, though, if he's going to really be able to embody those characteristics and feel that he's that guy. It's what we could call the three F's, okay? One is fighting, two is banging, okay? And three is survival. All right, but it's not really, it's actually being fit, okay? But being mentally and physically fit in a survival sense, okay? So let's review that, all right? So the instinctual part of yourself needs to know that you don't necessarily have to be the toughest guy in the room, okay? You're not going to be. Not every time, even if you're a tough guy, all right? But you need to be a threat to anyone that would try to make you a victim. Even in the most basic sense, going into something in a civilized environment, like an upscale party, all right, for example, where there are attorneys, accountants, business owners, and people who are far removed from their instinctual selves and aren't going to be fighting anybody. The reality is, and I've noticed this, and you'll notice it too if you pay attention to it, guys who knew that they were capable of being dangerous had an inner confidence in those rooms, regardless of their social status, right? Whereas men who didn't have that competency, didn't have that confidence, even if they had high status and a lot of money. It's an interesting phenomenon. You'll notice it if you start paying attention to it. You don't need to be able to beat everybody up, but you need to be dangerous to someone who would want to beat you up, okay? So that's the first thing. That's the fighting part of it. So if you've never been in a fight in your life, if you don't know what self-defense looks like, part of being a man is you need to go pursue that. Our instinctual at an instinctual level, we have to know we could survive if there was a threat. And at least, and part of survival is being a threat to others that would threaten us. Not necessarily being able to win the cage match, but just knowing that you're a threat to them so that they would maybe think twice about making you a victim or attempting that, okay? Now, number two would be, we could say fitness, mentally and physically. This just means being good enough physical shape and good enough mental shape and the type of intestinal and mental fortitude where you could survive, okay? If there was an apocalyptic scenario, you could procure resources, survive, and you can get things along. If you're too obese to walk around the block without being out of breath, if there's a apocalyptic scenario, you're dead, right? You're not going to survive it. If you're mentally weak, you're not going to survive those scenarios. So I'm not saying get into prepping or anything like that. It's more of a physical and mental ability that you have to have. If you have the ability for survival, if you were ever caught in a survival circumstance, this will give you a sense of inner alphaness and inner dominance, okay? And the third thing is being able to solve your reproductive problem, all right? Being able to propagate your genes if you want to. Okay, so that's part of also being considered an alpha. You could be the toughest, man of industry in the world, okay, with a lot of money. But if you can't solve your reproductive problem, right, if you're not good with that, you're never really going to feel like that alpha male. So if you're deficient in those three areas, those are things to work on, because no matter what we do, mindset wise and everything else, okay, no matter how much gym time you spend, no matter what you do with this part here, there's behaviors and actions you need to do too. And so if you want to have that social dominance and that leadership and embody that alpha male and that alpha part of you, these are three things you need to have in the bag. Thanks again for tuning in.